Hello everyone, Joppa here. I'm going to be showing off Armok Vision version 0.19.1. I skipped point 0 due to some mistakes on my end. And I'm going to be showing off a few fortresses made by the YouTube user Kruggsmash. You should definitely check out his videos. They are the best Let's Plays I've ever seen. So the first one that we're looking at is Steel Clutches. His bastion of civilization in the middle of a haunted area full of zombies and necromancers and all kinds of horrible things. So we see here a nice above ground courtyard. Lots of windmills to provide him power for everything that he needs. Very impressed actually with the way he put the windows on top of the column of axles. Has a very nice look, which I'm not sure he intended to see it in Armok Vision at the time, but it does make it look quite impressive. Here we have an unfinished statue of Scales, a monument to the dwarven god of balance that his dwarves have been worshipping. On the left, there is statues of goblins to represent the many, many, many goblins in this world. And on the right, there is a single statue of a dwarf to represent the much fewer number of dwarves in this world. His goal is to bring balance to this place. And in order to do that, that means balancing out the number of dwarves with the number of goblins, which means killing the goblins. We have here underneath the two gauntlets, a symbol of his civilization, steel clutches. I believe this to be his tavern. He's got lots of food stored here, some levers here for controlling all the machines outside, tables, chairs, a few dead bodies due to recent sieges, lots of mugs stored here, a few beds for tavern goers to sleep in. Out here we have the remains of goblin attacks. Here we have a dwarf setting up a cage trap. Let's unpause so we can watch what he's doing. I guess he gave up. We got some nice statues of dwarves out in the front, very welcoming. Let's follow them inside. Go down the hallway here, into the grand entrance, blocked off by a bridge. I'm seeing some battle reports here, but I'm not going to worry about them. And here we have the start of his minecart tracks going down. Stinky! Stinky, stinky. This is his massive tree farm. We have a nice artificial waterfall looking over here, with beautiful mist falling down beside it. A beautiful entry hall with statues of dead goblins to show the goblins that are coming what's coming for them. And a troll, which I believe is not up to any good. Further inside, we have some temples. This one features a dwarf and axes, and pictures of weapons on the side. Got a couple wells here for them to get some water. Long way down. The wells are inside the bedroom, which means that everybody can get a drink when they get up at night. Very thoughtful. This is another temple, featuring a statue of a dwarf and blocks. I don't remember who that is dedicated to, because it's been a while since I watched the videos. Nice row of bedrooms going around the outside of the tree farming area. Tree farming area is separate from the caverns because it makes it easy to defend and be safe. If I'm not mistaken, it looks like the cabinets in the dwarf's bedrooms have been thrown down by visiting nasties, and therefore are spilled their contents all over the floor. This is a tree-growing area with a miasma mist stinking up the place. This, friends, is why you don't have a fortress in an undead-raising area. This is the Hall of the Dead, where all dwarves are memorialized here with a slab. The bodies themselves are not kept here, for various reasons. Memorial Hall features 2 statues of dwarves with a table in front of them, presumably to represent eternal resting. I believe this to be the quarters of a local figure of government. It features the 2 steel gloves of the local government, as well as 2 copper dwarfs in the lower chambers. And finally, at the end of it all, we have 2 floor carvings of 2 gloves to represent steel clutches. That's it for this fortress. Now on to the next one to see what lies in store. Next up, we have Zeludadil, Future Lanterns, here in all its majestic glory. Nestled in amongst the lush forest on the opposite side of the continent from the much more harsh Steel Clutches fortress, this one has a bit different feel to it. The first thing people notice as they approach this forest is the way it towers above the landscape, dwarfing all the trees around it. Visible here from above, there is the arena with the goblin dropping device, as well as all the towers of the fortress proper, along with a separate tower of billion blocks covered in gem windows. Excuse me, I adjusted the view range in order to see all of this fortress at once, but my computer can't actually handle showing all of that, so I have to adjust it to something a bit more reasonable. Here we go, and here we go. Much better. So, starting from the very top, we have the goblin dropping device, with a bridge in the middle with lots of cages on the outside. Then we have here the goblin prison, which is, unfortunate for the goblins, open to the sky, with plenty of places for the goblins to fall down if they escape from their cages and hurt themselves. Moving over, we have the Queen's Chambers, with bright red windows, statues made out of billion, as well as billion walls. Here is a dwarf surrounded by coins, and a helmet, and another dwarf surrounded by coins. Very royal. Statues of dwarfs with shields and spears lining both sides of the throne room. Here we have statues of the birdmen that feature in this fortress. They gave their lives to defend this place, but were also too stupid to live. Here we have more of the Queen's Chambers, with more statues of the Queen being surrounded by money. And here we have a cage stockpile, which you need if you want to capture lots and lots and lots of goblins. Directly below the Queen's Chambers, we have the guards' barracks, with a small training area in the middle where they can practice fighting. And below that, we have more general chambers. This is a quite populous fortress, so we have lots and lots and lots of bedrooms for everybody. Everybody gets a nice place to sleep here. Further down, we have a couple empty open halls. I'm not entirely sure the purpose of them, but this one here features levers for controlling the various traps and entry areas. Speaking of which, this is the Goblin Welcoming Hallway. This is where most of the fighting happened. The goblins would enter this way, reach all the way to the end, to climb down the stairs at the end, and then enter the trap-filled corridor, which is lots and lots and lots of cave traps. It was here that all the actual fighting would happen. This is a staging area where the soldiers would mill about waiting for the goblins to happen, as well as the farm. Everybody loves a good farm. This is a much shorter, much more direct merchant entrance, which is blocked off whenever goblins arrive. Somebody has his own personal large gem. Very fancy. Other people have their own separate personal effects that they leave lying around their rooms. This is the entry hall for the general dwarf population. It features billion statues of dwarves holding spears to inspire confidence in the local dwarves as they enter the fortress. It's protected by a raising drawbridge in the front to stop unwanted visitors from using this entrance, and it leads directly to the residential quarters. On this side we have the very large food stockpile, featuring barrels and barrels and barrels and barrels of fun. And finally we have the tower. Each level featuring a dwarf sitting at a table with colorful gem windows. And at the top, windmills and water. Any dwarfs coming up here can get a spectacular look at the surrounding wilderness, as well as a good view of the fortress itself. That's it for Zerludido. And finally we have Gomath Zone, Legend Helm. The dwarves of this world switch from defense to offense, making the fortress a lean, mean, goblin-killing machine. Visible here is the lake, a dwarf-made artificial lake that protects the fortress from the goblin invaders. Coming in a little closer, we have the top of the catacombs of the fortress, an underwater structure with a little open-air area up on top. It features various miscellaneous statues up on the surface for the dwarves to look at while they mourn the lost. Visible here above the water is a cistern that is used to flush the goblins out of the long, winding entry passageway. Shown here winding through the forest on the edge of the lake, before ending in a long, grazable drawbridge, is the entry highway for both goblins and merchants to come and visit. As we look beneath the surface of the lake, we see the home of the Hero of Balance, a failed experiment in creating an underwater, air-filled structure. Unfortunately, it lies abandoned. As we venture downwards, we come across a hall that's slightly flooded, but still usable, filled with dwarves milling about and animals, and various discarded belongings, many of them probably belonging at some point to the goblin invaders that no longer live in this realm. As you go further down, we see the water flooding inside, down, down, down the steps, turning around till we get to more natural walls, further down to this, the large goblin trap. As the water rushes in through the hallway above, goblins are washed down this corridor around this central open area, which slowly fills up with water, drowning all of them. Currently, it's still filled partially with water, but the water is draining off. Immediately upon entering the fortress, we come across the barracks, filled with adamantine-clad dwarves, ready to lay down their lives to protect all of dwarfdom. Further in, we have the dining hall, long rows of tables with all manner of citizenry milling about. Food stockpiles, of course, are well stocked, ready to weather any siege. This room is, if I'm not mistaken, originally designed as a temple to the god of balance. And in a sense, it still is a temple, but a temple to craft dwarfship, as dwarves of all kind come and practice their skills in making wares. As we go further down, below the level of the fortress proper, we come across the final resting place of all goblins that come to this fortress. A dump of everything that is washed out of that entry hole. The bottom of the caverns. A lake filled with the bodies of goblins. And now, as a parting shot, a view from ground level of the dining hall of Gomasan. A place for dwarves of all kinds to come and feast together. Thank you for coming along with me on this tour of the Ageless realms on Armok Vision. I especially would like to thank all my supporters on Patreon, without whom none of this would be possible. Have a nice day.